Please welcome to the stage, Ms. Colby Minifie.
Hi. Wow. These chairs look so comfortable.
They are. They're great. They're great.
Hey, thank you all for being here and coming and being here and coming.
Or coming and being here, either way.
Either one.
Yeah.
I think we should say coming a few more times.
just to make it awkward. So, for those of you who don't know Colby, would you like to tell them a little bit about yourself, just to get started, and then we'll really get into things? Or should I just ask you questions?
The best way to describe myself is this joke. I'm just going to pick one randomly. Why can't you hear the pterodactyl in the bathroom? Because the P is silent. That's my introduction of myself. How's that? Why, thank you.
I think you can see what kind of seriousness this interview is going to take.
Oh, it's a very serious interview.
All right, so let's just jump right in there. What is your favorite dinosaur?
By far the T-Rex.
Okay.
Imagine trying to hug as a T-Rex. You're just like, I mean, it's just comedy built into a very scary animal.
And does that idea of comedy and terror, does that work for you?
Oh,
I mean,
good segue. Hey.
I'm good like that, huh? It's like I'm a professional.
Yes. I think also like the only way that comedy works is if you treat the thing with the utmost seriousness. If you try, and I'm guilty of this all the time, of trying very hard to be funny in a scene, and they're always like, can you not? Can you just, like, the note I always get on the show that cannot be named, the Voldemort, we can call it. Oh, that's also a Struck project. Never mind. Just like Colby, like grounded, like less broad comedy, just grounded. And I'm always like, oh, right. But it is always more funny if you just treat something as real and as grounded as possible. And in that way, it's like the more, like in playing with terror, for example, in a funny scene, if you have to be really scared, it can be really funny if you were just going all out terror, screaming. It turns then back into humor, into funniness.
Well, and the character that you play on that show, actually is probably the most terrifying character of all.
Really?
Do you guys agree with me?
Really?
Because the character that normally you would say is the scariest, right? The guy, the male character. You know who he is. You know where he comes from. But your character is the epitome. It brings the satire full circle because you're playing it so straight that we can. You really are. The heart of the show. If you guys watch the show, I mean, this is really where the
really?
Absolutely.
So nice.
From an analysis standpoint, your character in the most recent season really brings that satire home because she's the epitome of that corporate that will do anything to advance the product, and so brings that satire home. Which is far more terrible because we know that the guy doesn't exist.
I see what you're saying. That because
you do.
Right. Woo. That's very generous of you to say. Thank you. I mean, this is like all, I'm going to keep it broad, but in my response, but like all characters, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I don't know if any of you were at that one, but all characters, they don't think that they're being evil. If they're doing shitty things, they think, no, I have to, this is the only way out of this. People usually think they're doing the best possible thing for themselves, right?
Everybody's the hero in their own story.
Yes, exactly. And so if you do something that, like the characters that I play tend to be quite ruthless and crazy and like a little intense. I think that's just my facial expressions. I can't control them. But I think like the only way to make it, like, we all have that person in our office, right? That's just like, I mean, hopefully not. Like, hopefully people have better jobs.
If you don't know the person in your office who is that, it's you.
Yeah. And so we all have, like, that is true that, like, in that show, it is, we need, especially because it's heightened and because it's living in a magical space, we need to connect to certain characters. And I think they realized that after the first season, because my character was only supposed to last that one season. But I think they realized that they need that kind of corporate representation in the rest of the show, and because for the audience to connect to, you know. I don't think that was an answer to your question. I don't know what the question was.
It's a freewheeling conversation, that's all.
Okay,
that's
cool.
all. And if you guys have any questions while we're talking, because we can just talk for days. We've been talking for the last 3 days. So if you guys have any questions, please, there's microphones, step up, and we'll take them as they come.
And I'll try to answer as clearly as I can, despite this ridiculous strike situation. So thank you.
Well, okay, but now, how do you then prepare? You said you've got a character who, and you tend to play ruthless characters, and in other shows that we cannot mention. How do you, process-wise, how do you find the good in somebody that is evil?
I always think, like, especially with the little men, I guess maybe I'll call it.
The little men?
The little men.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Think of what little men are. I'm trying to not mention the show.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, yes, okay, sorry.
In that one.
I thought you were talking about something completely different.
Like the sequel to Little Women?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. The actual book. In
Literary
that one,
humor.
like, I always thought of her as the moon. She's constantly reflecting the sun. She's trying to, like, reflect off the sun. She's like, see, I'm cool too. Like, ooh, look at me. And, like, I'm cool in relation to people, which, like, when you think about somebody like that, you just have empathy for her world that she's put herself in, and the power she's trying to gain, and the outfits she puts herself in, and the shininess she's attracted to. And when you think about somebody that's in that space, everything just kind of grows from there. And I'm being way too specific now, but with some of the hair pulling stuff, like, I remember saying to the showrunner, I was like, I think she needs to have something that's releasing a lot of her tension, because she's so wound up so tight. And I said, why doesn't she start pulling her hair out, or, like, shitting randomly, or, like, binge eating or something? And he's like, oh, cool, like, I like the hair thing. And so it grew into a whole other thing, and that creates also more empathy from the audience, because they see, I don't actually know, maybe I'm assuming that, but, like, they actually see how somebody deals with that kind of stress. And I'm being way too specific.
Well, okay,
this is being recorded? Oh, God. I'm going to get fired.
We're gonna widen it out then. So
Thank you.
with all of your characters, how much collaboration when you're working on a TV project in general, nothing specific, but in general, how much collaboration do you have? I mean, you said you went to the showrunner to talk about the hair pulling thing. Is there a lot of collaboration in that sense, or
Yes, there's a lot of like, I mean, it depends. With other shows, it's not. I'll ask, like, why am I saying this? Can I use a different word? And they're like, no, that word is very specific to the entire world we're building. And I'm like, well, if you gave me more scripts, I could understand the world we're building. But with that show, it's much more like they give us more time to prepare. They are welcoming. They share information. It's really helpful. But my favorite thing is being in theater because I shadowed a director on the latest season, and I learned, usually when we're working on these shows, like, we get there, we're working, we get the scripts, we sit, and I sit in my room, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then I sit in my bathtub, and I like write ad lib lines to like whip out on the day to make me look really funny and smart. And then I get there and they're mostly like, no, thank you. And then sometimes they're like, oh, that's really funny. Let's have you say more dirty things and it's fun. But sometimes I misunderstand the scene, right? And I get to set and they're like, no, the scene is the scene is actually not that, the scene is this over here. And it's always confusing because we get 10 minutes of rehearsal. We like really don't get a lot of like cohesive understanding. And the door is always open to write an email and say, hey, what's the scene about? I just never knew that door was open for a long time.
Okay.
They don't tell you that door is open. Like, you just kind of have to like open the door and they're like, oh yeah, you can come in here, that's fine.
That's not locked.
When I shadowed the director, which meant that I just like literally stood in their shadow all day for 2 months and watched the process of the show being made, I was like, oh, all these conversations that we usually get to have in a theatrical process where we all sit around a table for a week and talk about the play all together with the designers and the director and the writer in the room, that's happening on TV. We just don't get to sit in on those conversations as actors. We're told to like, just be, which I understand, like sometimes we're like, but I think she should be in this scene too, like that's not always helpful. But to know that conversation is happening is really helpful. And that there's no dumb questions. Like there's just no stupid questions you can ask because we just don't know half the time like what the intention is behind some of the writing.
What the writer had in mind.
Yeah, and they sit in a room for 6 months and talk about the whole intention of the whole season and like how the show's gonna go, and we don't know what that conversation is.
You get your 3 pages, and
yeah.
It's like, there you go. It's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You made a very literary joke a few minutes ago.
My
Little Men.
Oh, my little. Oh.
Because what you said was
talking about my
yes.
dinosaur joke.
Your dinosaur. No, yeah, that one too. No, but you said Little Men, right? It's the sequel to Little Women, the book, which not many. Did you guys know that Little Women had a sequel? Do you guys even know Little Women? Right, but Little Women has a sequel called Little Men, and. So, do you read? I know you read because we've talked.
I don't know how to read, actually.
Just have your assistant read the script to you and go, here, this is the line.
I'm an audio learner. I do read.
But so what kind of inspiration can you find inspiration, or do you find inspiration from literary sources when you're...
So much. Like, I know I'm going to come across as a little bit of this is a bit of a wank fest right now for me, where like so I did not read a lot when I was a kid. I was into picture books like big time because I'm an artist. I do art stuff.
Talking is also new for you too.
Yes, clearly. But I would look at picture books like for hours, being like, how did they? And my teacher in elementary school like went to my mom and was like, oh no, my mother went to my elementary school teacher and she was like, she's not reading. Does she know how? Like, she seems to know how, but like, why? I'm worried. She's like not doing picture books. And my teacher was like, she's looking at those pictures like a motherfucker. Like she's just like, it's okay. Like there's a processing thing happening. And then when I got to, even through high school, I was like, I'll read what's necessary, but I was like not into books. And then when I did when I got to college, I started just like, it was, I don't know, I was around all these intellectual people. I went to an intellectual, like academic school, not really an art school, but they had art stuff there. And there were all these really wicked smart people. And I was like, ooh, I want to be cool here. So I'm going to start reading. And it was so, like the world opened up to me. And I got really obsessed with David Foster Wallace. Do you guys know that writer? He wrote Infinite Jest. He like wears a bandana and is fucking brilliant. And he's so smart that he's also aware that he's smart, that he then like backpedals a lot, and like anyway, you should watch an interview with him. He's so smart. And I wrote my college thesis about him. And then I really got into the Russians, like Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. And when you get the right translator, there's this couple, Pavir and Valahovsky, who are a couple and translate all of these books into English, which, can you imagine, this sexy couple, do you think it's this or do you think it's this word? Imagine what their lives are like. Anyway, they
talk there is just
I know they're lying in bed maybe it's this word. Anyway, maybe that's just me that turns me on. The way that these Russian writers describe facial expressions and thought processes in their books is always mind-blowing to me. And yeah, in that way, reading is very, I'm ooh, what's gonna happen? How people behave in books, and it comes out of somebody's fucking head. It's just so cool. Anyway.
So will you read a book and you find a passage and just kind of underline it and go, okay, I'm gonna remember that as an expression for something?
Maybe I should start doing that. I just do earmark things, and then, but I never go back and look. There is a book that I've read a couple times, Rebecca Solnit. Do you know this writer?
Yeah.
She wrote this book called The Faraway Nearby. This is brilliant, okay? I highly recommend this book, Faraway Nearby. She had a terrible relationship with her mother. It's like a memoir. She had a terrible relationship with her mother, and then her mother started getting dementia and started forgetting the stories she told herself about her relationship with her kid. And all of a sudden, their relationship, she was being kind to her daughter, the relationship blossomed. And it's fascinating because so much of our lives, we tell ourselves stories about why we're people pleasers or why we have road rage or it's all narratives, right? It's all self-delusion most of the time. And so to read a book like that, you're oh fuck, our whole lives are these stories. If we're hung up on something, most often it's a story we're telling ourselves about who we are, and that's why therapy is great. Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk about therapy.
In case you didn't know.
But sometimes also therapy can help us create narratives that are wildly untrue if you have a bad therapist. Do I have a bad therapist?
No, your therapist was great. We've had a conversation about you. It's okay.
Oh!
Now nightmares are going to happen. This has been going on all week, so we're...
You've been talking to my therapist all week?
All week. She's been checking in. How's Colby doing? Well...
Oh, no. Can you imagine? Oh, man.
You mentioned theater.
Yes.
Let's jump away. Let's talk about theater. You started when you were a wee lass.
A wee lass. 13.
How old were you?
13. Well, no, 12. I got my first job at 12, and then it started when I was 13. But it was an amazing job I got.
Well, let's hear it.
Do you guys know Martin McDonough? He did 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, and In Bruges. You know those movies? And 7 Psychopaths. He wrote this play called The Pillowman, which was starring on Broadway Jeff Goldblum, Billy Crudup, Željko Ivanek, Michael Stuhlbarg, and then it was about a children's writer, a grim fairy tale children's writer who lived in a totalitarian police state, who wrote these stories about children dying and being buried alive and getting their toes cut off and stuff. Very dark. And
sounds perfect for you.
Yes. And it turns out that there were kids that were showing up with these same ailments in the town that they lived in, and it turns out that it was his brother that was doing these things. And so they would perform, they would have flashbacks of the kids, and he would tell the stories, and the kids would be oh, my toes got cut off, whoa, and I understudied a bunch of the kids. There were 2 kids. One was a boy and one was a girl, and I understudied both of them. And if you put a wig on me and some eyebrows, I looked exactly like a young Billy Crudup. It was perfect. But I became very obsessed with death doing this show. And so for Halloween that year, I was a girl that committed suicide. My parents were okay. But it was a Broadway show, and it was this unbelievable play. Like, at our opening, David Bowie came to the opening. And I'm like, whoa, like, cool. I mean, it was just like a crazy first job to have as a 12 or 13-year-old.
What prompted you to say, I want to go audition for this thing?
I got to this. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself for some people from if they came to hear me yabber on yesterday. But I was one of those kids that was like, ta-da, like came out of the womb like, and I like loved performing. My dad's also an opera singer, so he was like, get up there, go do it. And then I begged to go to this performing arts school. I was like, I want to go to a school where I can learn. And my parents like found this school, and I auditioned with you guys ever seen Mrs. Doubtfire? Okay, so you know she's like, they're on like, Robin Williams is playing every different character on the phone, trying to get this job, like trying to make it seem as though all the people who are applying for the job are terrible. She's like, Layla, get back in your sail. Don't make me get the hose. Hello. I'm sorry, the position has been filled. Like, I did that whole phone call as my audition. Total nutcase. Anyway, they were like, we'll let that weirdo into the school. And when I got there, it was all for kids who worked in Broadway shows around the city, and the school was in Times Square. So I got there, and I was like, oh, I need an agent. Like, I'm behind. I am 11 and like a failure, and I need to be in a show. 5 Broadway shows behind. Like, oh God, I need to catch up. So I asked these kids, like, how did you do this? And they're like, oh, you need an agent. So I went home and was like, I need an agent. And my parents were like, what is that? And yeah, then they took me to, I like begged and begged and begged, and then they took me to one, and they were like, well, we're gonna have to tell her, it didn't work out. And the agent was like, yeah, we'll see what happens. They send me on some stuff, and then I got that show, and I got my like union card from that show, which meant that I could audition for so much more stuff, and I got lucky, so. Lucky me.
And if you wonder why she needs a therapist, I think we're understanding that.
Why do I need to perform?
We could bring the lights down just a little bit. I think we can.
Oh, no.
So, all right, what play would you like to do? What are your dream roles?
Oh my God, there's this play called Gruesome Playground Injuries by this writer, Rajiv Joseph, he's so smart, and it's so beautiful, this play. It's 2 people, one of whom has a really bad home life, and the other of whom has a really good home life. And she goes through one thing after another with her family, and he kind of finds himself hurting himself by accident, but also kind of on purpose to like take some of the pain away from her in some ways, and it's fascinating. It's so beautiful, this play, and I just love doing like 2-person plays. It's like my dream, so whoever wants to help me with that.
Do we have any theatrical producers in the room? Anybody?
Yeah, anybody?
We could do it here in Lithuania.
Play.
You'd come back.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah. I hear there's really good theater here.
There is really good theater here.
I have a friend who's a Greek actress in Athens, and she says a lot of her friends go up and see theater in Vilnius, which I'm learning I pronounce incorrectly, but I've been trying to.
We all do. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, fuck. It's something wrong with my L, right? Vilnius. No, fuck. I'm not gonna keep embarrassing myself. What?
Okay, so.
Okay.
All right. No, all right. Let's get away from performing for a second. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I keep asking because, like I said, we can talk all day long. But if you guys have questions, please, stand up and ask. But what do you do then for fun? What takes you out of the performing spirit?
I walk a lot. I do a lot of do you guys know the Camino de Santiago? Do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. I did that a couple years ago, and it completely changed my life. 6 weeks of just walking and seeing something new every day.
Do you all know what that is? Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
like it's a beautiful, it was just like, I that's my kind of vacation, like accomplishing something slowly over time. I like have a weird thing about relaxing. I don't know what to do. But that is really beautiful. And I have a lot of hobbies. I do a lot of things with my hands. I do ceramics. I make woodcuts. I crochet. I do quilting and embroidery. And I do, there's one more in there somewhere. Carpentry. Yeah, woodwork. Oh, thank you. I do like woodworking. I renovated an Airstream a couple of years ago, so I did all the plumbing and all the electrical and all the solar panels and the carpentry for that.
Do you use that on set as a...
Yes. So that's why I did it, because it's very expensive in Toronto. So I was like, I'm gonna build this Airstream and then bring it to set and live in it so that I can save money while I'm working. And it worked for a bit, for about 5 months, but I parked it in a place that it was just, I don't know, the guy started sending me naked pictures of cowgirls and being like, is this you? And I was like, I gotta go, I can't. And I would anyway, it was living on a farm. I was like, this is my dream. It just turned into something that maybe I shouldn't have. Whatever, we can talk about that later. But living in it, there's nothing sexier than taking a shower in a shower you built. I was like so giddy. I was like, the hot water works. And then it was like, it's way too hot. I need to fix that. But it was it's like a beautiful gift to have.
Well, is this where when you said when you were a child, you were a much more visual person. And so is this how that is expressing itself now? Do you paint? I draw?
I'm bored with mixing colors, so I don't paint so much. That's just, I don't really understand color theory. So, but because since we've been on strike, I spend 5 to 7 hours a day in the ceramic studio. I can't help it. There's something so primal about it, like playing with dirt and playing with clay, and looking at something that you made and being like, I made that, like holding it in your hand. I talked about this a bit yesterday, but I can look back on all my work. I've been doing this for 19 years. I'm sure some of you feel the same way about some of your own work. I can always delegitimize my work. I have success amnesia. I can look back and be like, well, that sucked. And you didn't learn that thing at that point. And yeah, they gave you that job, but you didn't really deserve it. And with art, I can't do that. It will always exist, for the people to excavate in hundreds of years. I was just kidding.
So it's therapeutic, really.
It's hugely therapeutic. It gives me self-worth that is separate from my job. If I'm only getting self-worth from acting, I get very depressed, because it's not a meritocracy, right?
Right.
I can have gone to grad school, I can have gone to undergrad, I can have done every job in the world, and they're still we're kind of bored of her face. We're gonna give this job to somebody else. It just doesn't, the rug can be pulled out from under you at any point. So I need to have a solid foundation somewhere outside of it. Which I'm sure you guys feel it sometimes in your own jobs. You're like, yeah, this feels good, I'm making money doing this, but you need to have something else that gives you fulfillment. Yeah, because even with acting, sometimes you get really lucky and you have a really great job, like the one I currently have, and you're inspired and it doesn't feel like work, And then sometimes you're like, this wasn't such a good job, and it's really hard to show up. If you get a theater job and the play doesn't get handled correctly, you have to show up 8 times a week and do that play and stand behind it, and the audience is like, oh my God, and they're not laughing, and you feel like a piece of shit, and they're whipping out their phones in the middle of the thing, and they're leaving, and you're like, oh my God, and you have to do that for 8 times a week for 3 months sometimes.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, many times. I one time did a play where I was an opera singer in the sewage system of Paris, vomiting into my hand and painting the vomit on a pipe while the ghost of an 18th century painter and a rat played by the same actor are talking to me, trying to convince me to drink absinthe, okay? That's some of the theater I've done. So when you show up on a day like that, and also I did 3 weeks of it for free because of some bullshit with the contract. And I remember like being like, I'm on stage now, like 7 people in the audience, and then going back off stage and just being like, I don't want to do this. It's like so painful, you know, because you like love it so much, and then you hate the way it's being done, you know what I mean? It's like the medium can be very hard. And in that way, I'm like, oh, if I had ceramics, I wonder how I would have handled that situation.
So you come backstage and, dig your hands into the clay and pretend it's the little rat.
Yes, and tear it apart.
That's So, okay, you said your dad was an opera singer. So when these kinds of things happen, do you call him up and you go, hey, Pops, how do you deal with this? Have you ever dealt with it?
They're both of my parents are like incredibly supportive and kind people, and my dad so often will say like, if I'm having like a bit of a hard time, my dad will always say like, Colby, you are 99.99 one of the luckiest people in the world. Like, just take a step back and like look at what you have. And he's always right. My dad's one of these people that like, he'll be sitting eating a meal and he'll just be like, God, we're lucky. And I'm like, what a refreshing, beautiful way of being in the world, right? He's just, it's a really always a constant reminder of like, yeah, we have food and healthy bodies, and I get to make my living making faces and being a ham. I mean, what the fuck is my life? You know what I mean? And I get to be here and like talk about myself. And you guys are somehow listening. I don't know why.
Any questions? We've got about 15 minutes left.
God,
You guys, anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Or you can just yell. We're family. It's okay.
Hi.
Hi.
It's really lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
So I work myself in film, and yeah, and this might be a bit of a specific question and not interesting to anyone else.
I'll try to answer vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, but not about a specific project, but just in general. Like on one hand, I feel like the actors, being well taken care of. They've got the trailers and their PAs and coffees brought to them. But then on the other hand, I do feel like they're sometimes infantilized in a way. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense, So there's the crew and there's the cast, and let's separate them and let's just tiptoe around the cast and not tell them certain things and, just save them and so I'm just wondering, what's your take on that?
Which area in film do you work?
I work now as a cast PA, so yeah.
There you go. I'm so glad you asked.
I just feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's different in different cultures. Like, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like in England there's a sense of actors are also just at work, and everybody's in it together, and everybody is making the thing together. And I am definitely in that mindset of like, we all have things, we're all trying to make this story together, and nobody is at a different level than anybody else, and everybody requires the same amount of respect. And sometimes that includes leaving space for an actor to have silence or like a private time. Like, I do think some of the like protections around actors' spaces is important, like not getting changed in the middle of a room with a bunch of people. Like sometimes you need to we come to work and we take our clothes off, right? Like, it's a very vulnerable thing. And so to have a private space, doesn't have to be a trailer, but to have a private space where you can like zero in, focus, and like be quiet within ourselves for a minute is important. But I really do think like oftentimes it's just overdone in the States. There's some, like, well, she can't, we have to let her, there's like a lot of like hand holding and stuff that isn't helpful, because then it does sometimes make us feel as though we can't do those things, like we can't show up in like the strongest way. But yeah, I've also been in situations where, especially if it's a sexual scene, where sometimes it isn't handled with as much care, and then I start to feel like, okay, now I'm feeling the that lack of respect in a way that like can be harmful. But I like do think that the more we think, like every PA is important to the show, and every costume designer and every grip and every set decorator, like everybody is necessary to make the story happen. And everybody needs different things in order to show up on set, but most of the time we don't need all the crazy shit that we get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Could I shoot another question?
Yeah.
Since I'm already, just a really different question now. Is there a role that you'd never do, and I don't know, just a certain thing that you'd never do on screen?
Good question.
I assume not.
I don't. She's blacked out. I don't think so. I mean, I'd never do like racially insensitive. Like I'd never do like blackface, for example. Like there's certain things you just don't. You know what I mean? I think that goes without saying. I don't know why I said that out loud. But like, yeah, I don't. I mean, I love. Yes.
Would you do nudity?
I don't know. I think it would have to be really right. What I've noticed with nudity, especially in theater, is like the whole audience stops listening to the play and they're just like, oh my God, butts, tits, butts. They have like, the language isn't being heard anymore. I'm like comfortable with nudity, but I feel like it would need to be, like there's a moment in Angels in America, I don't know if you know that play, but like where a man diagnosed with AIDS is getting inspected by a doctor, and it's really vulnerable, and it's really uncomfortable, and there's silence around that part of the play, and that's important. Like I think that is important, if it's absolutely necessary to the thing. But I don't think there's anything I wouldn't do. I'm a horror of an actor. Thank you. I love it. But I mean, yeah, if the script you're like, then I wouldn't, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, or like a child molester, or, I mean, something like a horrible, really horrible person.
It would need to be, there would need to be a point to it, like like Lolita is an unbelievable book.
Right.
Right? We ask ourselves why we're empathizing with a pedophile in that book, right? Whether or not the thing needs to be done on camera is a question, but if the part serves a purpose, an educational purpose, I feel like it's groovy.
Sure.
I might eat my words later, guys.
Can we erase that
Remember
part?
this. Yeah, like, hi.
Hi. I wanted to ask, how do you stay consistent with all of your characters? Because I can assume that, you do season 1 of this one character, then go take a holiday, maybe do other projects, and then you return for season 2, and how do you deal with that?
It's a great question. I actually had no experience in that before I worked on the Little Men. And thank you. And it's a really good question. I am a verbal processor. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. But I have to talk through things with people. So I hired my friend to talk through all of my ideas and insecurities and understanding of the character before the season starts, and sometime, throughout the season, to be like. And I also, I really hate watching myself, but I watch the previous season to be like, how did the script make it in the process, right? Like sometimes they do all kinds of crazy edits, or they change things, or they cut things, and like sometimes you don't know what it is until you see the whole thing. So I watch the previous season. I go like this during my stone, and then I like talk through my ideas, and then it's a little like dusting off the first day. You're like the Tin Man. You need a little bit of, but it comes back pretty quickly. Like it kind of becomes like a muscle memory almost thing. Also, they put me in those outfits, and they put me in the outfit. I'm like, oh right, here she is. This is how she can't walk in heels, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, the characters that you play, do you find yourself, do you find them like affecting your personal life more? Do you start acting like that character with your, let's say, loved ones, or, you know, in your everyday life?
Call your mom.
I really fucking hope not. I mean, I do think there is like a release of a lot of stuff that happens with these characters that I play. Like, I'm learning I might have a lot of anger deep inside me somewhere because I keep playing these people that are pretty angry. But no, it doesn't transfer. I'm pretty much one of those things. Like, me on set is like, whoa, and then they call cut, and I'm like, what's up? You know, like I'm not one of those method people. I have to like switch in and out of things because I have to stay loose in order to stay loose on screen. You know what I mean? So I'm like, when I'm on set, I'm doing like a full 13-hour stand-up special. and then they're like, okay, shut up, action. And then I'm like, you know, so it doesn't really, like the character doesn't really transfer into, I mean, like it transfers in that like I have more money than I used to. So that's a nice transfer of things, but like other than that, it doesn't. But thank you for asking that.
Oh, very welcome. Thank you for answering.
Of course.
We've got about 2 minutes left. I've got one more question if you guys don't have one.
Yeah, I saw your hand here.
Yeah, I have a question about the strike situation.
Yes.
Could you share your point of view, know what's going on, what happened?
I said we have 2 minutes.
Thank you for asking that. Yeah, okay, so when TV shows were on like network television, there was a bunch of protections that were put in for actors to be able to, like, if the show replayed in syndication or whatever, we would get a chunk of that every time our image was up on the screen. And when streaming started, when Netflix, yeah, I can mention the places we're striking.
Yeah, we hate
I was
those
like,
bastards.
I can't say that. Yeah, when like Netflix and Amazon and HBO Max and all these things like became streamers, they're like, this is new. We don't really know what this is. We don't know if it's going to work. So we're going to do this new media contract. And the contract didn't allow for residuals they don't tell us how many times something is played. So like the show I'm on, we know it's popular, but we have no idea how many people are watching it. They only give us minutes. They keep all that, and they have all that information very, very specifically. They know when you're rewinding, when you're pausing, they know all that stuff, but they keep all of that stuff very close to the chest. So we don't know how to say, hey, you're making that much money with this show. Like we need a cut of that. We need to see some of that residual payment because we're making you guys a buttload of money. On top of that, because of the residuals, the way our rotten healthcare system works is that our union, every time we work, we pay the employer pays money into our union to give us healthcare. And the requirement, we have to make over $26,000 a year as an actor in film and TV in order to qualify for healthcare. We have 160,000 actors in the United States in SAG after our union, and 87% of those actors do not qualify for healthcare every year. I worked enough in 2023, is that the year we're in? Thank you. Where I made $16,000 that went into my healthcare. I'm still $10,000 away from making that money. I have to make that money by March, or else I lose my healthcare. And I am working more than most of my, like, so many colleagues that I have, right? So if I am losing my healthcare, like, it's a nightmare. And that's, a lot of that is residual stuff. On top of that, and I know I'm going over, but I think it's important. Thank you. AI, so what they're doing now is because of this AI technology, they can look at, what they're trying to do is they're trying to hire background actors. This is just the first thing that they're doing. They're trying to hire background actors for a day, which is $100 for the day, scan them, and make them sign paperwork that says that they're going to use their image in perpetuity for the rest of time, which means that that actor is out of work after getting paid $100. They scanned me last year for this show. I don't know what paperwork I signed for that. I don't know how they're going to use that scan. That is very scary because it ultimately means that our jobs could be gone within a couple years, the better this technology gets. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we all kind of want real shit, right? And we need to protect that. And, you know, it used to be like when you saw VHS tapes or DVDs, they'd have that, like, stealing is bad, like piracy, like piracy is not a victimless crime. And now they're just like, oh, we're gonna pirate your face, like, no problem. Like, they just switch so quickly on their point of view on that because they can save a ton of money.
Well, they can steal, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, these CEOs are making millions and millions of dollars a year in bonuses, and I think some of that needs to be trickled down to us, the people who make them rich. So thank you for asking that question and letting me rant.
And that's our time. I feel like your therapist now, and that's our time.
That's our time for today, Colby.
So, thank you very much, Colby, Minifie. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming, really.
Enjoy the rest of the convention.